socialism to communism.
No. In fact, that barbed wire and the wall was meant to keep those people in because they were all trying to get out.
That's exactly what it was. Right. And I act like the wall was incidental. Like it was there. Oh, well. Right, but that's not. It was put there to keep them out. But let's just say it wasn't. Let's just say it was just. It just happened to be there.
Well, I think initially,
the same effect.
I think the wall wasn't really as enforced as it eventually became.
Oh, it started off as just a little fence, and it was porous, and then they got it. It evolved. I mean, it did because as people found ways to get through it, they added to it. You ever notice if you look at the wall in the 80s, it's very, very tall. It has features that people may not have even known about it. It was actually L-shaped.
Oh.
And the L faced towards the East Berlin. And the reason why is if you tried to get a really heavy armored vehicle to try to bash into it, the armored vehicle would roll over the leg of the L so that when it hit the wall, it wouldn't move.
Oh, it'd like run up it. Oh, I'm seeing pictures of it now. Yeah.
No, it would stop it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it was L-shaped. And also, if you look at the top of the wall, and this was not always a feature, but the top of the wall has big, round concrete, smooth concrete, and it looks like the shape of a C, and you would slide it right on top of the wall.
Oh.
And what that is there for is it makes it impossible to grab the top of the wall and hoist yourself over. It's impossible.
Because it's rounded.
Yes, and by the way, the diameter of those things are like 16 inches or something like that. So it makes it impossible to wrap your arms around it and hoist yourself over it. It's just impossible.
I'm looking at some of the early pictures of the Berlin Wall, and people on the free side are literally standing there, and the wall only goes up to their shoulders, and they're looking over like, man, what are you guys doing? What are you doing over there?
Then when it got really evolved, then it was two walls with what they called the no man's land in the middle. And if anybody was caught in there was no questions asked or any, hey, get out of there. You were just shot immediately.
Right.
And there's actually recorded incidences of people getting shot and laying there and crying and saying, help me, and nobody would dare go in there to pull them out or rescue them or to give them medical aid because they knew the next person that goes in there is going to get shot. So they just literally sit there and wait till they die, and then some East Berliner, probably a soldier, would then go in there and fish them out.
Right. I'm looking at one of the very first images of the supposed wall, and it's just a couple of pillars crossing the street just with ragged barbed wire. Looked like somebody did a half-a job on wrapping it around and there's some old ladies just waving.
Well, and here's another thing too. Early on, it wasn't that hard to travel from East Berlin to West Berlin. You know, I don't know if there was like a pass system that you would get a pass for the day, and people in East Berlin could spend the day in West Berlin. But what happened is a lot of people just weren't coming back.
They didn't want to come back.
And then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? I think we need to suspend this pass situation because it ain't working. And of course, the ones on the west were happy to take them and to help them flee. I mean, it was almost like an underground railroad situation.
Right. So here's some couple other points about Obama. Obama went to Occidental College, which we all know, and at Occidental College, his father knew and was connected to a handful of Marxist professors there. That's something that he was kind of, kept the education ongoing. He then went to New York to go to socialist scholars conventions. And then he did hook up with Bill Ayers. They went to Chicago, back where his father started the communist movement.
Which, by the way, earlier we were talking about domestic terrorists. He is an admitted.
Admitted, yeah. Yeah, oh yeah. Megyn Kelly asked him.
Police station.
Megyn Kelly asked him, how many people you think you killed? He's like, I don't know. And they may be. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. You know, I mean, it was just like he did. He certainly wasn't offended by it. But how does this guy walk around free? He
was asked if he regretted doing it, and he said, "Oh, absolutely not."
Right.
Even though it did result in the death of at least one police officer. Right. He murdered a police officer using terrorism.
Right. He started the underground weather underground movement.
The weather underground, right.
And realized that they needed money, massive amounts of money, to fund their terrorism. And he found a way to do that by using capitalism to fund his terrorism. And that's where he was able to hook up with Obama with the money, if you will. Obama then joined Acorn, and for 10 years he became a trainer and mentor to other, I guess, wannabe communists. George Soros, it's come out that he funded the Black Lives Movement, Kill Cops. Remember we played that video on the show. That was just recently. He funded that movement to the tune of $33 million, and this is exactly what they did back in the 60s. Hilary did it. Obama did it. The communists did it. They were all like, kill the cops, cops are pigs. And so now...
And they're doing it now.
Yeah, now they're doing it now. It's the same... The history's repeating itself because they never taught... Dude, they didn't teach us this stuff in school. You know they didn't teach us any of this stuff. This is the kind of things that we have to...
Right.
Right. So their number one goal is to remove the middle class and destroy the capitalist foundation. That's their number one goal. And they know that Christians will never buy into the whole taking away the health care, So what they're doing is flooding with poor people and illegals, flooding them into the country on purpose, and then the gun grab that's coming. Obama's New Year's resolution for 2016. Do you hear what it is?
Yeah, I know. He's talking about an executive order to just start doing things that are clearly in violation of the Second Amendment.
Quote his New Year's resolution. Quote, to accomplish unfinished business.
Yeah, but did you hear his? It was shameless. Remember the email I sent you?
Yeah.
What about the children?
Of course.
I'm like, it was just shameless. It was just shameless. I don't know how you can get away with it.
Well, nobody's pressing him on it. But their whole goal is to dumb down the kids in the public education. I mean, look at the whole... I mean, I know that when we were going to school back in the day, if you got to school early, you could get a milk or you could get something. But now, I mean, these kids are getting 3 meals a day at school, and the parents aren't paying for it, and it's all good. So now these kids are more loyal to what they're learning than they are their parents.
Right, because now they're instilling into these kids that without the institution of government education,
look who's taking care of you. Yeah, look who's taking care
right.
of you. Right. And so I know you mentioned this to my wife the other day, but the largest homeschooling movement since the establishment of the Department of Education, that's now.
Department of Education, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then something that I kept hearing about over and over again, and I really dug into it, and I started looking more into it. It's called the Cloward and Piven strategy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know Rush talks about it often, and Glenn Beck talks about it a lot. But it was a political strategy outlined in '66 by American socialist and political activist Richard Clower and Francis Fox Piven. So that's where it comes at Cloward and Piven, that called for the overloading of the U.S. public welfare system in order to precipitate a crisis that would lead to replacement of the welfare system with a national, federal, a guaranteed annual income, thus to end poverty.
So that's as close as you can come to full-blown communism as you can possibly get.
Right.
Where it ends up being that the government decides what you need, to each according to his need, from each according to his ability. That's like pure textbook Marxism.
Right. No, absolutely, 100%. In their book that they wrote and they talked about, and they would sit around and, I guess, daydream about utopia. The ultimate objective of this strategy, to wipe out poverty by establishing a guaranteed annual income, will be questioned by some. Because of the idea of individual social and economic mobility has deep roots in America, even activists seem reluctant to the call for national programs to eliminate poverty. But then they go on to talk about how they overloaded.
Stop you right there.
What's that?
Okay, what that kind of socialism does is take a system where you're going to have some people in poverty and some people in middle class and some people in wealthy, and it replaces it with a system that guarantees that everybody is in poverty. Everybody. It guarantees. You are guaranteed, just as guaranteed as just about anything else you can imagine, you will end up with everybody in poverty except for the elites that are, I don't know, strong enough to take over the system or elected. I don't know what they did in the Soviet Union when they got a new premier, but I don't know if it was elected.
Right.
But somehow they ended up with a new leader. Those people were the only ones that were not in poverty, flat out.
Well,
I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, they said that their focus, this was all, I mean, I guess the things that they wrote were the propaganda, were the facade, was the fakeness. This is how we're gonna care for everybody, guaranteed income,
but poverty. But in reality, in a system that ensures everybody's in poverty.
Well, but in reality, the whole goal was to bring in and usher in. This was their way to usher in communism. They said this will be the fastest and the best way to do it, and so they focused.
But how stupid could people be? Look at East Berlin and West Berlin back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And could you imagine people looking at both sides and saying, you know what, I see a couple of people on West Berlin that are impoverished. We need to implement what they're doing in East Berlin to end that poverty.
No, you got me. I have no idea.
I'm just pointing that out.
And why this, well, it's out of pure ignorance, this rise of support for communism we talked about on the last show. But these guys are talking about this welfare system, this national system to where they take care. Well, even Hilary talks about it. It takes a village. They're not your kids. They're the government's kids. It takes all of us to take care of them.
Yeah, there is definitely an attack on the family unit, the nuclear family, if you will, that goes all the way back to the Communist Manifesto. I mean, it says right in the Communist Manifesto, direct attacks on the family unit. I mean, I don't have the quotes in front of me, but it's amazing. It's repulsive, the way they talk about how you should not be raising your children. They should be taken away from you. Oh, here's the argument. This is the Communist Manifesto argument, that in a capitalist society, children are used by their parents to exploit for money.
Oh man! Woo!
Yep.
Wow.
And so you capitalists are all evil, and you should have your kids taken away from you because of the abuse that you're putting on them by using them in this way for monetary gain. Instead, the state should take them from you and educate them and make them intelligent and do all the things that to bring them up and to be a warden of the state, if you will.
Right. Now, some of these ideologies that we're going to talk about right now are not, they might be ground